Hello, my name is Riot Gaming AU, and this is me doing some post-commentary on my most recent run of Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, where I managed to take currently second place with this run. This was definitely not my intention to go this hard. I really just wanted a sub 205 run that didn't have a huge mistake in it. My current sub 205 was good, but it had a really obvious mistake, so I was just trying to grind down to get to that, and I did not expect to get a sub 2 run. So, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the early game here. We're really just giving that orc 5 slashes, and then we let Dilhan finish him off. We grab this orc straight away, we throw him towards the other orc so that we're close, and we give him the old ground stab. We don't grab this orc because Dilhan interrupts the grab animation, so we're just going to ground him, let Dilhan finish him, and then we're going to try to pull off the insta-kill glitch, where if you grab an orc and throw it at the right direction, it instantly kills him like that. Fortunately, we don't get a second one, so I end up just stabbing this guy on the ground, and we'll grab this guy here, throw him, and give him a ground kill. That's the end of the tutorial. So we move on to the next tutorial now, which is the funniest thing ever in a game like this, where we stealth kiss our wife. For me personally, I like to think that that's all Tally knows how to do, and he stealth kisses all the orcs because that's all he learned in the tutorial. But the next is pretty self-explanatory. We're just going to run at the orcs as long as possible, and then it's basically stealth at the last second. Rolling is obviously faster than running, so we're going to roll where we can. So we'll roll here into the next orc, immediately go into stealth, and you can kind of like do the stealth attack a little bit early and then sort of magnetize towards them. That's a better example there. And we get out of here before 2 minutes, which is about my usual standard for the first bit of the tutorial.
His life now belongs to Gondor.
Father, if you turn my love in, I shall swear I killed Lord Asgon when he attacked me.
Okay, so not a huge amount to talk about here. We're just spamming control straight away, then space and escape together to get through the menus. So control obviously to activate the fast travel point, and then space and escape to get through the menus. Here we immediately roll, which puts us into the cutscene. We kind of move too far forward, so the cutscene actually brings us back a step as well, which is fine. It doesn't matter in this case, since bows are instant in this game. And we're just going for 4 headshots here. Note that you don't actually need to, there's a very small window where you don't need to pull the bow all the way back. I think I get it on the 4 orc here. Yeah, so I don't pull the bow the entire way back. It's much finer than it is in Shadow of War. In Shadow of War it's a lot more lenient, but in this you've got to be very, very close. And not pulling it back will result in not a kill. So here we just press left control. I tried all variants of running up to him first, but left control just seems to be the fastest option from there. So we're just spamming spacebar to get through the menus, and then we're going to be running for a little bit, so I'll leave you to that till the next part.
If you ask me, we're not doing much of anything here at Voodoo.
The world has changed. Nothing makes sense.
Nothing has changed. This is how it will be. The future and the past are linked in darkness.
So just quickly here, I'm turning on my Elven vision so I can see where the spider spawns. As we move into where the bush expands from in low graphics from its standard bush to the big bush, the spider will spawn somewhere in this area, and I was just looking for it. We need to kill 3 of those spiders so that we get the money for the bow upgrade.
Why use your human side to track the Uruk? I see more than any mortal.
So here I'm just spamming V and X together. V is to turn on Elven vision, and X is to identify the orc, so you can spam them together and it'll instantly identify where he is. He's not in the best of positions, and also this orc by the sandbags is in a really bad position. So he's going up that way, which means most likely I'm going to be seen here. He does end up seeing me, but thankfully I was able to get the distract off first and turn around our captain here. I believe this fight does not go to plan, if I remember correctly. Or maybe, yeah, so I get smacked there, which is really annoying. Miss a shot there. get thrown around here. This fight went well. This might have been a world record. But that's okay. It's going to happen. So we end up killing him off. I thought about resetting the run for a moment, but we're still better pace than my current PBs, so I thought, well, that's not a major mistake, so we'll keep going. And thankfully we did. Now this is something I do that no other runners do. We all grab open sweepness obviously, but I actually vault up to these barrels. It is faster than just running at the sandbags normally and then vaulting to the sandbags. It's not that much faster, so it doesn't really matter. I think it's like 0.3 of a second, but every little bit counts. Yeah, my camera is doing that really weird bug. This is the only game I've ever encountered where moving your mouse during a cutscene affects the camera once you get out of a cutscene. It's really strange. But there's not much else to report here. We're just going to be running to the objective with Golem. We're going to snipe 2 spiders on the way into the cave, and that's about it, so I'll catch up with you afterwards.
There! It's on the run!
So here this Caragor actually only ever spawns with 1 HP, so you can just tap the bow on it and it dies instantly. Grab these arrows. And then we basically just got to kill the 6 orcs plus the 2 Caragors. I think this goes relatively well this time around. This wasn't actually my first run of the day, but I did end up closing the game between this run and last run. Which is why all the new game tutorials are coming up. It was kind of annoying, but it wasn't actually any of the time wasted here. So as soon as the Caragor kills that guy, we end up killing him straight away. And then we just run and collect Golem. And then we're going to be fast travelling and running to the next fast travel location. So I'll see you then.
Against the Shadow.
Again here, I'm the only runner who does this by climbing up on these boxes to get the extra speed boost. It is faster by my timing, but it does make this rock jump here a little bit harder as the angle is really, really sharp. So it is worth it in my head, but it's a very, very minor time save, like less than 0.2 of a second. We're going into Rat Bag 1. Unfortunately, this one time I was not able to actually pick the flowers like I normally would. So normally I stop and pick the flowers with Rat Bag as he walks up here, but this time I completely forgot about it. I was focused on something else, and by the time I remembered, which is when I start running here, it's too late, and if I go for the flower, Rat Bag will stop walking and I'll lose time. So unfortunately I have to leave my pretty flower, but that's okay. Alright, so other things to note so far that are coming up is I do not get the orc manipulation correct. I'm not standing in the right location when the defender spawns, so I lose a tiny bit of time there. Outside of that, the rest of this is very standard, so I will see you a bit later after we kill all these guys and move Rat Bag on.
Becoming a captain is just the first step of Rat Bag's plan to become a Warchief.
Then prepare to step hard on his neck.
How did you get free, scum?
Get the ranger, not me! He's a much easier target! His sword's broken!
Leave the vermin alone and face me, Urix.
Well done, ranger. Now, just
So this is me failing to push Ratbag. I actually push him in the wrong direction completely, so we're trying to push him towards that doorway, but unfortunately I just failed completely and I ended up pushing him away from the doorway, which was really, really bad. So the next bit we're going to quickly talk about, I am going to obviously kill the one guard that may be able to see me when we are coming up, and we're also going to aim for a fly nest. You won't actually be able to see the fly nest on my screen because again I'm running on low graphics to save load times, but the fly nest is there and you can see the visualization of the flies still around, and my reticle changes from the normal aiming colour to the actual you're targeting something colour. So we'll snipe that down. That will get rid of an archer that you won't ever see. So first we'll kill this guy here. I failed the first shot, so I slowed down time. Slowing down time here isn't great. And you can see I'm aiming for the fly nest there, even though it's not there. We knock it down, which kills an archer you don't see. Hop over this wall. Try to go around the bushes as best as possible. And I actually climb on the gate here, and then climb this way. This does save about 2 seconds over the current route that most people use, because you don't have to climb up to the very top, you just climb there, and as you're pulling yourself up, the cutscene will start.
This looks like a good spot to get some shut-eye. Goroth will kill you if he catches you napping. Goroth never comes here. He's always by the hunting camp.
Goroth's in the hunting camp. So much for him always being in the same place. A captain who fears his own beast.
Fear is a powerful tool, Talion. Let's put Goroths to work.
We're close. Now, which one of this filth is Goroth?
I want to break 3 categories at once.
Okay, the next bit's going to happen really, really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to shoot and open this cage. We're going to wait for Goroth to slightly start stumbling back. That indicates that he's feared. We can then jump on him, land on him, grab him, and then immediately use the E to execute him. And you don't even get to see his fear animation going that fast. Okay, so from here, instead of running like most runners do, we actually go for the fast travel point. It saves about 2.5 seconds, and then we just jump down and we finally do our first skill upgrade here. We're going to buy the execute skill, we're going to buy the detonate skill, and we're going to get that arrow quiver size upgrade. And then we're just going to run to the next mission.
As much as they hate us.
So here, unfortunately, we get to see why I don't get the world record. I think, honestly, this was one of my biggest mistakes, and this was purely because I have shaky hands. So I believe it was hitting, yeah, that guy there. I hit the pole, which then alerted all the orcs early, and I actually got 2 more orcs, and that would normally not come across because of that. So, and of course, I missed a shot on that guy. Again, my hands are a little shaky, and I don't manage to pick up the arrows before I get attacked. So, all in all, this split was absolutely rubbish, and it was an absolute nightmare mess, but at least you can learn stuff from this. So I grab the arrows, I get into combat with Graug here, just because I'm not going to bother trying to shoot the guys here until my focus is back up. My focus is back up now. I did execute the wrong target as well, so that was another mistake. But with my focus, I'm able to take out these guys in between Graug strikes. So another mistake here, I should have gone for a stun. It took way too long to actually knock him down to his knees because I hadn't come fresh out of an execute. But thankfully I was lucky enough to get the brand here. Even though the archer is starting to see us up top, he didn't interrupt us, so that was good.
ratbag led us up the chain of command in spite of himself.
He has a gift for failure.
Training platform. Well, we'll see how the Warchief soldiers do in the face of a true foe.
So now we're on to the first of the Warchief missions. This is Mog. It's always the same for Mog. The rest of them are RNG, but Mog thankfully is nice and similar. Really bad here was that I got a lot of spawns of normal orcs up on the platform as well as the berserkers. In fact, this is the most I've ever seen. Now this is actually really insane RNG, believe it or not. Mog doesn't normally drop down to the second platform. It's based on where you're standing, and it is extremely finicky and it's not reliable at all. In fact, that's the second time I've only ever got that in all my runs. But yeah, luckily got him to drop down. The Mog fight goes relatively well. Unfortunately, I do believe we end up seeing his lines. Oh, no we don't. He goes straight down. So that was relatively clean on what we should do on the Mog fight. It can be slightly cleaner, as you can see by my splits, but still pretty damn good. Okay, so for newer runners this might seem a bit weird going this way, but usually, and I believe it happens in this time, we get intel that spawns here. It does take a few seconds to actually show up on the map, so you won't see it straight away, but it's well worth going for it, and I got extremely lucky with this dead shot spawn, which is right in front of me, so may as well go for it. Going off my usual path, but that's part of the reason why we have to figure out our routes on the fly, because things like this happen so quickly. Now this first archer, I have never seen an Auric live from a throw when you throw them off something. So it doesn't matter how high it is, normally they die instantly, but for some reason I throw this guy off and he lands on the wood pack and lives. Anyway, not a big deal, just thought it was kind of funny. Here I make my decision to go up and kill the orcs. I try to stay out of combat as best as possible. That was why I killed that orc that saw me. I'll get a stealth kill on this one. I've got one guy following me, but he should drop aggro when I hop up here. Kill this guy, and then we go for a stealth kill, and then we've got one more archer, which thankfully is just below us, and we're able to snipe him out quickly. There he is there. Okay, so this captain spawns and he has no weaknesses. So, sorry, this Warchief. He has no weaknesses, so look at that in a moment. Just by pressing, spamming V and X at the same time, you can actually bring it up straight away because you're already targeting them. I mean, technically he has ghoul slaying, but that's not something I can abuse in Shadow of Mordor, so fear of ghouls, sorry. So we'll just beat the crap out of him, basically, is the standard play here.
Is this my lost soul?
So here I'm looking around for more intelligence. I've noted that there is an intel guy here, so I quickly shoot him because he was seeming like he was fleeing, even though he was running towards me in the end, but I didn't want to run the risk of him running away, so I just shot him in the leg to slow him down. And we're going to grab him for our second piece of intel. This is also relatively close, so I decided to go for it straight away, plus Firewater is a very quick mission. So as such, it doesn't need the dash ability Shadow Strike. So I think I can complete it before going and doing the Golem quests like before.
This Warchief cannot resist the lure of destruction.
So here I actually make a little bit of a mistake. Normally I'm running over to him to abuse the fact that he's scared of fire. However, because I'm on the Firewater mission, barrels spawn in different locations than they normally do, and the barrels that I was relying on that normally spawn just around the corner here aren't there. So I have to make a backup and go for the fire behind me. I was looking for barrels there were none there, so I had to go for this fireplace over here. My second mistake is that I am fairly well surrounded and there's no great location for him to climb once he's feared. So what I should have done here is started just opening up on him with stealth attack straight away. Instead, I try to grab him, I try to get intel out of him, but I get stopped by an orc at the very last moment. And I believe I get downed here as well. No, that's not here. Yes, no, there it is. Okay, so I get downed here as well, which make matters worse, and now I'm fretting that I'm going to lose this Warchief, and it's really, really annoying because this has so far been a great start to a run. I try to grab him, decide against it, and then finally, I think I finally decide, yeah, I'm just going to start stealth attacking him. I should have been doing that from the start. As he's fleeing away from me in terror, I can just stealth attack him constantly, and all the other orcs can't do anything about it. So second Warchief falls, and we move on to the Golem mission.
Lose it! Let me out of it! Ranger!
Must follow us, great master, to the treasures.
So here I'm going to use Titus' strategy. I'm actually going to walk forward and let these orcs see me, and then I'm going to drop the nest down, which guarantees that they all get hit by the nest. I was worried one of them didn't, so I shot him there, but I actually didn't need to. He was already hit by the nest. I was just being a little bit too hasty. Here we finally snipe out the final archer, and I somehow managed to push Golem one time, and I've been trying to do it ever since. That's what I'm trying to do here, and I was actually able to push him to the next step. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to, and I ended up just slowing him down a little bit, so that was me being a bit silly and deciding not to do it. Thankfully, I do get my flower picking habits in here while we're waiting for Golem, and this is just a simple escort. I decide, since I have all the locations of the Warchiefs already scouted and I know where the last one is, I make the decision not to get this tower up here early, and that is because I don't need it. So this is an optional tower that sometimes is good to grab, sometimes is not. I end up not grabbing it. I'm just going to stand up there, and we're just basically going to wait till Golem's arrow touches us on the minimap, and then we can run. Golem will tell us to go find the artifact, which is always right here.
and then the ghouls will spawn here. So one thing to do when you're a newer runner of this game is to use your timer and note exactly when he yells out ghouls. So if you're doing it without collecting this tower, you wait exactly 1 minute before blowing them up. I actually waited a little bit longer here because I made a mistake. But if you're grabbing the tower, you need to add 6 seconds to that timer just to make sure. And that's basically the timer that says when the ghouls will stop spawning. So if you kill any ghouls before that timer, it doesn't matter, but they'll just respawn.
Fling Gollum will betray us to the Black Hand the first chance he gets.
He has no love for the Dark Lord.
Here again, we just fast travel to the next location. We're heading to the next Gollum mission. I wanted to just say quickly that rolling is only very, very, very minorly faster. It is such a minor thing that if you spend a whole 10 seconds rolling straight, you'll have only saved 0.03 seconds. Sorry, it's 0.3 seconds. So it's absolutely not necessary to be rolling as fast as I am. I just really wanted that sub 205, and I was trying to shave every single millisecond I could. Now, we've all heard of the 360 no scope, but here is the famous Shadow of Mordor 45 with scope. So if you just hold your aim button, the game will automatically pan you to that meat, and then you can just shoot it instantly, and it looks really flashy, but it's in fact the easiest thing in the world to do. And again, I'm just going to be running, and then I'm going to be rolling. I do make a mistake here. I actually interrupt one of my dashes early with a roll, because I have the roll bound to my scroll wheel now, and it was still scrolling when I land, so you'll see it here. Yeah, there. So losing myself a few seconds there, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. So we'll roll to the cave, get our Shadow Strike ability, Shadow Strike out, picking up arrows on the way.
Nightcrawlers, vermin from the depths of the earth.
Fly, you fool. Vespers of memory, the rings of power.
9 to men. Their power became their undoing. They became the ring wraiths.
Yes, the Nazgul.
But the Nazgul were destroyed.
As are many who come in contact with the rings of power.
With any luck, the Uruks have yet to discover the secrets of the blasting powder. We will need to free my men to find
Finally, this is the Hiragon 1 mission, and this will close out the first section of the run outside of killing one more Warchief. So, really, it's just a slow escort mission here. Of notable things, I try to do some orc manipulations, and I'll talk about them when we get to them, but outside of that, it is just a very slow escort.
Have you ever heard of Hithless? It's toxic and is good for one thing: poisoning orcs.
So I use my audio cue here. As soon as he says poisoning orcs and then does his little laugh at the end of that, that's when I actually take off. Also, grabbing this plant, it's one of the 2 herbs that we actually need for a survival challenge that will give us more money. When I say need, we don't need it, but it is very, very useful to have. I'm running up here as fast as possible. I'm also trying to not run in Hiragon's path, because if you do like there, he stops for half a second. And this is one of the manipulations I do. So kill this orc here, and most of the time what that means is that all the other orcs will go and investigate, and it means I can grab these herbs untouched. So I believe this is a good example right there. That guy now walks away to go investigate the dead body, and this orc over there is facing that way to try to investigate the dead body as well. I was a little slow on the herb pick, so I almost get seen, but thankfully I get out of there.
There are more plants ahead. Follow me.
Where did you acquire this blasting powder?
Traded for it with a blustery dwarf. He took his powder.
So here again, I'm doing another orc manipulation. You can actually get past these orcs unseen. Unfortunately, as you can see right here, or you can't because I pan the camera away, Hiragon's gone into sneak mode, and he walks extremely slow during sneak mode. However, what we can do is if we get into combat here, Hiragon will go into attack mode, and he will stay in attack mode for the rest of this sequence. So instead of slowly panning through here, you can see he's standing upright again and he's running at full speed. So that is well worth the time to kill those few orcs to get him back into full sprint mode.
In Mordor, even the flowers are of death.
So here was another minor mistake. I should have actually killed that orc before he saw me, so that he wouldn't get Hiragon's attention, but unfortunately I did not, and now that orc's going to come across, and they're both going to see me now and fight me, so I have no choice but to take them out. Annoyingly as well, I don't have 6 arrows, which is normally what I require for a couple of tricks coming up.
I thought it impossible Sauron would ever return.
Darkness descends upon Mordor. Soon it will be impossible not to succumb.
When we realized we couldn't fight the orcs, we started dressing up like slaves, sneaking into their camps to free the others.
A bold strategy.
Not really. Mostly we'd end up slaves ourselves. At least we came dressed for the part. When I was first rescued by the outcasts, they told me you led the search party from...
Okay, so here we can actually sprint away from Hiragon. He's actually going to stop and tell us to come back, but thankfully the herbs are always spawning in the same location, and this one spawns here. And as soon as we start grabbing it, Hiragon will then go, oh, I'm onto the next mission trigger, and I will continue running up. I'm also trying to do, there's a great example right there, roll cancels to get out of the herb animation early. I believe I fail it here, so you can see the difference. You have to take the time to stand back up fully. Oh no, I got it there too.
This should be enough.
There you go, but it's a 1 frame trick. It is extremely hard to do, and it barely saves time, but if you get it, it's awesome.
I doubt they will drink from it. The Uruks are stationed by the front gates. For the sake of my men, keep to the shadows. I'll gather my men and wait. We'll stand ready to seize the blasting powder once the camp is clear. Remember, Talion, don't be seen. These Uruks have killed many slaves for far less.
So here I actually get a mission fail. Normally this strategy works fine of shadow striking this first one, jumping over here, and normally there is a second orc over there, but he didn't spawn this time. So now I jump down and I fail to see this archer until it's too late, sorry, the spearman. I do actually turn around and hit him, but for some reason that doesn't kill him. I think I hit him in the hand with the arrow, and I count it as a failure, so it resets me here. Again, no orcs spawn on this tower up ahead, which is really, really unusual, so I have to just run across. And you'll see me flipping over the barrels a lot. That is not intentional. In fact, I'm going and grabbing before this barrel. that is me just trying to go as fast as possible and just pressing the button a few frames early. So we'll see it here again. Yep, there's another grab fail. And we take a very specific route here because the orcs, as soon as we drop the poison in, the orcs are triggered to go and have a drink. So I'm taking a very specific route here to basically not be caught. Hop over this fence and we go to the left of this pole here in case an orc hops down. I got hit that time, which was really annoying, but you can normally get past that fine. Drop the poison in and then go for the final one here, which again I do a grab cancel on, I believe. Yep. And because I love clicking my flowers, I grab another flower while I'm waiting for the next trigger to load. This doesn't save or lose time, but hey, it's 20 XP that's free.
Hunt the hunters to draw out them.
So here I got 3 really good missions early. All of the Warchief missions have been really good. This one especially is insanely quick just because of the hunter spawns and this barrel here. So I take out 2 there. I'm able to quickly run across here. Go for a ground stab on this guy. It didn't work. I probably should have just pulled out the bow to begin with, but we put out the bow, kill him very quickly, and now I'm trying to scamper up the wall as quickly as possible. What I'm hoping is because this guy has spawned with a shield, he is more likely than not vulnerable to stealth. In fact, he is not vulnerable to stealth this time round. He is actually vulnerable to Caragors, and I have had absolutely rubbish luck with orcs being vulnerable to Caragors. Thankfully this works out after a little bit of wrangling at the Caragor. And it's not really the game's fault at this point, it is 100% my fault. I don't know why, I just can't handle how sticky Caragors are in this game. They're even stickier than in Shadow of War, which is saying something. Here I try to jump on the Caragor and then realise, oh, I don't have the Caragor riding skill because I haven't grabbed it yet, so I'm grabbing that as well as strike from above and quick throw daggers. Unlike Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor daggers are actually very useful, so I use them from time to time. But now I'll leave you with me failing to attack this captain while on a Caragor for a few seconds before I finally get him, down him, and kill him, and end up killing the last of the Warchiefs for this area.
Regret it. My master will peel the skin from your soft bones.
Now I want to say that that bow rune right there was the MVP. 100%. I can't state it enough how good that bow rune was for me. Throughout the run you'll see it trigger all the time when I'm meant to be fighting big packs of Uruk and they just end up running away. So yeah, keep an eye for that because it was an absolute performer and it way outperformed my expectations.
Forgive Erin's words. Her heart is with our people. The slaves you helped us free know where the Dark Lord's monument is most vulnerable. We will strike there. We'll need to steal a cart of Graug from the Uruk. It will make quite the trigger for the blasting powder. Let's move.
Okay, so here I'm trying to move up as far as possible without getting out of range of Hiragon to unleash this Caragor. He's going to start helping me clear up all the orcs in this area. Tried to get a snipe on one of the orcs there, but unfortunately I could not. Again, if we leave Hiragon, if we go too far away from Hiragon, he just stops walking and we have to run back to him. But thankfully we kept in range and we were able to start killing all of these orcs. Now this may look really strange the next bit coming up, but I do this on purpose. I'm staring at the ground here because there is a trigger that stops you from moving. And if that's the trigger right there, the cart, the Spark of our Rebellion. If you are executing someone when that triggers, you can continue executing them while you're stuck and not able to move or interact. So it's a very, very minor time save, but it is a time save. So here we blow up that fire to try to kill the rest of the Urks and the Caragor, so we know what to do with them. We drain the last Urk, and then Hiragon tells us to follow him. But because we left him so far behind, the game actually comes up with a, hey, you're leaving the mission area, even though you're standing right next to Hiragon. It's a bit strange, but that's alright. Moving on from here, it's just a slow walk to the next area.
All clear, men! Excellent, Talion. Now we must ensure our men can push the cart to the monument free from harm. Look, how fast evil corrodes.
This decay. Gondor must not fall prey to the Shadow.
Let's move.
So here again, I'm just going to unleash a Caragor as soon as these orcs spawn. You have to wait for them to spawn, otherwise it will come towards you. And then we're just killing all of these ghouls. I do fail in manipulating Hiragon's AI here. I try to get him to... Normally I kill all but those ones on the right, which will force Hiragon to run forward, but unfortunately he didn't in this case. And now I'm just taking out any orcs I can see while I'm running along with Hiragon. And again, he'll ask us to clear this area. Now, it is of note that if you get Hiragon into combat in this area, he will actually slow run in the next area. So you can see me taking a couple of precautions in the next little bit, just to make sure I don't pull Hiragon into combat. There, I tried to snipe through a cage. That will never work. I don't know why I went for it. But it's all okay in the end. I'm going to stab this guy. Continue our best to stay in stealth. I believe we end up draining one of these guys. I wanted to drain this archer. My plan was originally to climb up here and drain him, but I saw how low he was, so I ended up just stabbing him. And I'm worried about this Caragor drawing Hiragon into combat, and again making him slow walk, so I make the decision to jump and mount it. You can't take the Caragor. Hiragon won't let you follow him while you're on a Caragor, but it's quick drain, arrow refill, and we're back to him. And it's another slow walk for a while.
Fighting side by side. Who would have thought?
So here I make sure I'm climbing up this side of the tower, and I'm climbing on the right. Hiragon doesn't actually care about vertical distance away from me, he only cares about horizontal distance. So he will continue doing his thing while I quickly go and grab this tower. As I move into the centre, I am classified as too far away from him and he will stop and wait. But it means he's moving while I'm climbing this building. So we do a quick jump back down, he'll continue moving while we're flying in the air because we're considered close enough to him again, and then we'll continue from there. Not much to say about the next bit. I draw Hiragon to the far side of the bridge with the ghouls, and we're just going to be walking through for a bit.
Simba beasts. You'll get Uruk guts as a reward. The dead rumble below our feet. They're upon us. men will protect the cart. Let's clear the ridge so they may pass. Be ready, Talion. The next outpost will be the largest.
It's too quiet. Something is amiss.
So here again we see on one of my own personal strats here, I don't know if this is faster than what the other players do, but this feels very comfortable for me. I stand on top of this cage throwing daggers until the Caragor comes. Instead of killing the Caragor, I just end up taking him because I have mounted riding anyway, and it's quicker. He also helps us clean up the ghouls here, so I feel like this is a lot faster. However, it has not been measured, so don't just take me at my word here. Make sure you're always checking strategies with other runners as well.
Caragors. One enemy replaces another.
So here again, in this part, I am going to be borrowing a couple of strats from Tinitus here. What we're doing by doing the lure over there is we're making sure that that orc stays up on that box so I'm able to shadow strike to him. Now this nest was actually a pain because the orc on the right didn't get enough of the nest to count as being feared, and we'll actually turn around and have to kill him later on, so he loses me a few seconds, but overall we're just waiting for this orc to turn yellow. As soon as he does, we start the shadow strike, bring us really close to the map. I can see now on my mini-map that that orc didn't run away like he normally does, so really annoying, but we have to deal with him. So I end up jumping up here to deal with him. I think it takes me 2 shots, yeah. Missed the first shot there. And then the rest of this is pretty standard. Run over here, but all my timings are off, so we shoot that. Normally that kills the archer. It didn't kill the archer this time because my timings are off because I had to kill that extra guy. I realise I'm out of arrows, so I go for the drain on this one. And I don't want to run all the way down there, so we end up shooting that guy. I go for the far nest, and then usually I'd go for the fireplace down below, but again, everyone's all in there everywhere. This guy, for some reason, took 2 shots. I have no idea why. That still looks like a headshot to me. I try to grab some more arrows here, but it's going to be unsuccessful. I really should have just gone for it. I also went for the ground execute, which I knew was a bad idea. And there we end up executing the weakest of the targets, which was a bad idea. This time the ground execute works, thankfully, and we're able to quickly kill the rest of these. Thankfully the guards here, once they're drained, they run away and they're no longer counted as targets, and then we're going to go here. Now I want to state for everyone's reference that the way I do this next section is not the fastest possible way. You can climb one of these towers around here, or one of the poles, and kill one of the archers as they spawn. It's very, very difficult to do, and I have not learned the strategy for it, so I don't do it. It only loses you about a second not doing it this way, but I just wanted to make that clear that this is not the most optimal way of doing this section. Okay, so this first archer here is the one you can take out beforehand. And then we just kill the other 2 archers, and then you actually don't need to worry about anything from here. All you do is push the cart. The orcs prioritise attacking the cart over you. The only time you'll ever be hit is when an orc actually misses the cart, and they miss so badly that they randomly hit you. It does happen very rarely, and it's annoying, but there's nothing you can do about it. You don't need to take out the second wave of archers, just keep pushing the cart. It will never lose enough HP to where it's vulnerable.
To these outcasts, it seems I am less of a monster in death than I was in life.
It is the Black Hand and his captains who are the true monsters. They will return, and when they do, these men will die.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the hammer fight. Again, I want to state this straight away. This is not the optimal way to do this fight. I make multiple mistakes. So, to put it out on paper how the hammer fight is meant to go, and all the mechanics of the hammer, every time you attack him 3 times in a row, he will then immediately try to strike you. So you cannot get more than 3 hits on him without evading a little bit. So you use the orcs to build up your combo. What I'm doing here is I'm building up my combo, hitting him twice, and then I know he's at one of his 3 breakpoints. He has 3/4 health, half health, and 1/4 health. So I pull out my bow and I hit him, which triggers his breakpoint, kills all the orcs, but I managed to keep my combo meter. But then I lose my combo meter because I wasn't quick enough. So that's a bad thing. And here you can see that he's just constantly now attacking me back and forth. Managed to get the execute, and that went really, really smoothly. So I'm going to roll back here, do the bow attack again, and that'll trigger his 2nd breakpoint. I go for the roll evasion, and I keep my combo meter this time, but I actually fail the dodge here, and I lose my combo meter. So had I kept my combo meter, this would have been an extremely fast hammer, but unfortunately I did not. And I lost it again there, which I was really upset with myself at this point. And we triggered his 3rd part of his phase without dodging it, so again I lost my combo meter, and now we're just going to be roll cancelling on the hammer constantly. 3, and then he goes for attack. Go for the execute here, and he's down.
How does vengeance taste, Talion? Is not the darkness sweet?
We have defeated the Hammer of Sauron, but the Black Hand and the Tower remain.
And their master.
I am with child. Talion's child.
I was offered a post commanding the Black Gate. I intended to refuse. I shall have you both there.
I need to find the way to Morgoth's Scar. There's a good chance we can pick up the Ghoul's trail at that ransacked caravan we passed earlier by the ravine.
Okay, so the next section is pretty standard by all the runners. We're going to grab this fast travel point first up, and then we're going to Shadow Strike to one of these orcs always spawns, so we've always got a Shadow Strike target here. Part of the mission is to go look at the caravan. I don't do this 100% correctly. You can actually keep your elven speed boost, but I turned too sharply and stopped. And then we run around. I pulled out my bow slightly too early here. As you can see, I'm not in range for the orc to Shadow Strike. And we Shadow Strike up here, and then we run to the ghoul nest. So we're literally on the ghouls path now, and the ghouls have no idea we're coming. This is the only other thing I found here, that if you stick to the right side here, instead of doing a elven dive, you'll be able to just do 2 short hops and maintain your speed while going through here. Outside of that, I very, very nearly trigger a ghoul attack because I was being too impatient and taking the wrong pathing slightly. So I'll point that out when we come to it, but outside of that, it's really just sneaking through the ghoul's nest.
The beast. Stealth is my best weapon. Staying high will keep me out of sight. Ghouls fear fire as much as light. But Those flames might prove useful if we are overwhelmed.
Okay, so this is where I get greedy. I should have run along the rope a little bit, then jumped down, because the ghouls behind me actually saw me, and you can see them now looking around for me. And it actually causes a chain reaction here, where I'm actually seen for a moment, because I come out of stealth to shadow strike that target. Thankfully, it doesn't trigger a ghoul attack, which was very, very lucky. I just got out of range of them before it triggered, but I should have been punished for that when I wasn't.
What is that creature?
This part always makes me giggle because I'm running the game at low graphics again. You actually see the low poly version of the Ghoul Mother for a while, so it stands there and it looks really, really strange. But essentially this fight is all about getting as many headshots as you can early. I like to go with 5 to 6. Here I believe I go for 6. Grab these extra arrows here and then wait for the Ghoul Mother to get in position. Blow up the fire, which sends her running towards the other fire. You get 4 autos here. And blow up the second fire, which is an instant kill on the Ghoul Mother.
The storm is past.
The danger has not.
We must escape. Those fires will stop them. The entrance is nigh. And so is our end if we don't reach it in time. What of your vision, Celebrimbor?
I used all that he had taught me and forged the 3 in secret. Water, air, and fire.
Never saw skin cut.
Marwyn's decree was speed. The future must be met. The Queen told us our answers to building an Orc army lie within this fortress.
If we brand those archers, we can build our army and save these men at the same time.
I show their insides. I am gay.
Okay, so here again we're going to use Tiny Twist's route for this section. I actually came up with my own route, but unfortunately after I retimed it, it timed out to be about 2 seconds slower than this route. So this is the king route as far as I'm concerned of taking these archers. We dominate all of them beforehand. Good thing is Shadow Strike stuns the orcs and they no longer fill up their detection meter. So essentially they can't detect you while they're stunned. So we're very, even though this looks really risky, we're very, very safe while doing this. Now a few times I've rushed here and actually knocked this archer off the edge, so I'm being extra careful not to knock that archer off the edge because he is a... Basically if you lose that archer, I don't have enough archers left to complete the mission and I get a mission fail and I have to rebrand the archers, which has happened multiple runs. Outside of that, I'm running up to the guys here. I'm doing my best to snipe out any special orcs. Unfortunately that guy takes the arrow. We blow up the container with the last 2. I run over to brand these guys, but they just end up dying, so we get this part done. Next section, we're really just waiting for enough orcs to gather around to drop a nest on them. I use the mini-map, so we can see that the orcs are yellow, and they go red when they're actually they're still yellow on the map when they're not being feared by the bees. So I quickly run up and snipe out the last 2 that are not being feared by the bees. They both die and we can move to the next mission.
It is one thing to kill these Uruk, it is another to make them our followers.
It is a gift. We can use the weapon of the enemy against him.
Torvin said to bring her an army.
We shall not build an army. We shall command one.
We'll need to find an Uruk captain to dominate and make our own.
There is a slave idea here named Grublik. We will make him serve our cause.
Okay, so this archer isn't playing ball, unfortunately, so I have to lure him across, wait a few seconds, and then stealth attack him. Now this, I mentioned before that the bow rune came in handy. This is another really good example of when the bow rune came in handy, and I didn't even notice it at first. All of the orcs are running away. I actually got annoyed because that orc killed at fire. But the rest of them have all pretty much run away now. So I've got no one else to fight except for Grublik, which is amazing in terms of the time save.
Time to die slow.
So we go for the standard combo on Grublik. We keep him stunned, ground execute him whenever possible, use our executions, all the good stuff. So here you can see I immediately execute him, and then just 2 quick attacks will drop him to the ground, which means we can ground execute him, roll to cancel the animation, and repeat until we get another execute available. And that's the Grublik fight, nice and easy. Unfortunately, he does regain health in between the time that I went for the grab and I actually connected with the grab, so I give him 2 quick more strikes just to make sure he doesn't get that health back again. We dominate our first captain and we send him on a mission to become a bodyguard. Now, this is one thing I do that the other runners don't. If I have 6 arrows here, I always shadow strike across to this archer here. You can actually shadow strike to him and then run to the mission start, and he won't know you're there for the entirety of the mission. Normally. This time for some reason he picks me up, but that's never happened before. Outside of that, it's pretty standard here. We're just going to be killing all the minions, or in my case, we're going to kill the first section of minions, and then the next 2 camps are all going to flee because I got a proc from my bow rune, which is really, really nice.
Break the chains of the Dark Lord. Our protege wields fear like a weapon, and we are his invisible ally.
A shadow who stays close and sees all. That is the Elven way.
Our captain fights for us well.
Through my will, he steers these Uruks of Mordor.
One thing of quick note here is that I'm going to be draining Grublik anytime he starts a line. That just allows him to jump to the next animation and jump to the next line sooner.
I conquered the weak. Now join me in victory. Hail our captain. May we die last. We fight for true Uruk.
Now that we have our hunter, let us stalk our prey. What do you suppose we're digging for anyway?
The Warchief has chosen our captain.
So here is the ideal route to move through to this area. We get this archer to spawn here, which is a little bit of RNG, but normally we get him. We then lure the next archer over. As we're running along, we go wide here to get a shot of him as quick as possible, teleport over to him. We don't even bother killing him, we just start climbing the tower as he's going to have no idea where we've gone once we start climbing.
Vile, savage beasts.
Now again, this is a me special. I'm not 100% sure. I believe this is faster to activate Grublik, but I'm not 100% sure. So what happens is I shoot the campfire, everyone's burning, and then activating Grublik immediately stops him burning and starts him attacking the Warchief, which means that I've got Grublik's damage for the entire fight, which makes it go really, really fast while everyone else is still burning around.
I have to do everything else around here. That won't work on me. Idiot!
Bollocks to this! I will have more revenge next time!
You must think I'm simple. Trying that again? How did you defeat me?
I fight for the Dark Lord, and you
Once again here, we're going to be interrupting Grublik's lines, so we come up, we quickly drain him, and we jump down. And this is a really weird bug that Tiny Toons found, but if we interrogate a random orc here, it actually takes us to the end cutscene. Not sure why it happens, it is really, really strange, but we're very, very glad it happens because it saves us a few seconds.
With the power of the ring, he could have built a great army to challenge the Dark Lord.
And that's what we must do. The one garrison does not an army make.
Yes, we must dominate more war chiefs for a true army.
Obtain him! Get after him!
To me, is this my inheritance?
So this is great exactly because we get the perfect jump directly into the next mission, the Cure, or also known as Robert Smith. We're going to Shadow Strike this archer up here straight away, and we're going to blow up this fire. Unfortunately, there is one guy that is not close enough to the fire to actually count for the explosion, so I then have to find him out, and he's at the worst possible angle for me. So we jump out onto this cord, snipe him down, run back here, and then move on to the next section. This next section can be done a lot cleaner. I really mucked this up. This part's all fine, this is exactly what you're meant to do. Except for here, I don't get all the headshots I want. I'm not sure why I sort of half let an arrow go on that guy. Thankfully we killed the guy going for the alarm, and we just punch the orcs that are coming up. Grab those extra arrows, and move on to the final section. This final section can be a little bit strange. Sometimes there'll be a fireplace here, sometimes there'll be a hive, and sometimes there'll be nothing. So you kind of have to work around what you've got. Thankfully I've got a hive, which means that all the other orcs run away and I only have to deal with the captain here. We start off with a stealth attack, and since he's a berserker, so a dual wielder, we're going to keep him in stun combos the entire time.
Strength shines.
So this little cheeky map check here was the time that I knew I was onto a good run. I finally got Grublik to spawn in a location that I'm going to go to anyway, so I don't lose any time by having to find him. It is absolutely fantastic, and this is when I started to think, okay, this might be my sub 205 run that I want to keep. Now we're going to start up the Torvin missions. Torvin himself, I think he is a great character, but his missions are utter trash. They are so much exposition, so much walking, not much action. It's really boring. Thankfully, we do have a few tricks to speed them up, which I'll point out as we go.
Once you go on the hunt, Captain, you'll come out a changed man. Hopefully for the better, but you never know.
So here the player is normally meant to walk with Torvin all the way over to this point, and then the Caragors will spawn and then you're meant to tag them. Thankfully, however, you can just do this. You only can grab the last Caragor, which is why I'm waiting for the other two to pass. I tag them, climb this cliff, stand as close to this edge as possible. That will force the Caragor that's charging at me to run right past me, and we can jump directly onto it, skipping a bunch of Torvin's walking, and we get to see him perform an absolute super jump onto the Caragor up here, which is always hilarious. So here I'm attempting to push Torvin closer to a trigger point that he has to walk to regardless. You'll actually see him turn around and go to it now in a second. You only have a few moments to push Torvin before he becomes unpushable. And now I'm just waiting for those orcs to spawn. As soon as I see those orcs to spawn, I know I'm right to go. I run off leaving Torvin again, and I start hacking and slashing these orcs, which is going to trigger the next part of Torvin's mission chain. Now we're meant to go here and contest with Torvin for kills, however we're too busy as a speedrunner to do that, so instead we're actually just going to climb this tower. We're going to grab the fast travel point. This will be used later in the run for Lothariel's final mission and for finding Grublik. And then it's back to the mission, basically killing the orcs as fast as possible. We also really want to preserve our Caragor health here. I fail to do that. My Caragor comes out quite injured after this, which is my own failure. But the more Caragor health means the more arrows we can drain out of the Caragor, means that things aren't as tight.
Can be used for good.
You've been hunting and learning for long, dwarf?
For years and years. Land used to be more lush. Now it doom slowly sweeps over it.
Like much of Mordor?
Yes. Though the doom does add us. You take him up high. Leave the ground dogs to me.
The world was young, the mountains green. No stay yet on the moon was seen. No words were laid on stream or stone. Stars appeared.
That fire dragon burst. You got the basics down. Let's take on a fresh batch. We'll find another camp. Put you to a final test. Fight him however you like.
Oh, running short on lessons?
Running long on lip. You'll need to think on your feet. When we face the Graug, can't always look to me for help. The hunt is about discipline. Training yourself to see the perfect moment.
So here again, thankfully we can just sort of abandon Torvin and go to the next step. As soon as those orcs spawn up here, we're able to move along. And now you get to see part of the reason why I am never going to be first in this game. My archery skills compared to all the other runners are extremely subpar, and this mission exacerbates that. You'll see me miss multiple shots, you'll see me waste multiple arrows. It's a mess. Now here I'm actually really panicking because I do not have enough HP to drain my Caragor again at the moment. Thankfully, I managed to pick up one last slither of health just then, and I'm able to snipe this guy out. I want to state that I have never, ever sniped that guy before Torvin triggers him to run away. That was my first time ever, and I was really pleased about it. And thankfully, I have just enough juice left in this Caragor to drain it for one more set of arrows to snipe out these two to speed up the very last section. And you can see in the bottom left, my Caragor had no HP left.
Torvin needs help. This dwarf is far from home.
Not all those who wander are lost.
Rush him!
So, what backward lesson do you have planned this time, eh? Shooting Crebain to prepare us for the mighty Graug?
You want to hunt Graug? So you shall. But not just any Graug. This is a rare one. It's territorial. Strong enough to claim land as its own.
Okay, quick little bit of Torvin manipulation again. This sort of pan over where we look at the Graug is always going to happen. However, it normally happens when Torvin's standing still. We can actually trigger it beforehand like I did then by walking up, and that allows Torvin to continue walking while the pan over happens. It's a very minor time save, but it's a time save in a Torvin mission, so we'll take any of those we can get.
And since you're so good at taking orders, I'll tell you how.
And here's another time save coming up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for Torvin to get to a specific part of the pole. I actually waited a little late, you can run a little earlier. And we jump onto this ledge, which triggers a Graug to run across. You can see there you're running out of the mission range, so that was close, but you can make it a little bit closer. Here I actually miss a boost, and it completely messes with me. I think about going back and getting it or not, but I just leave it and run towards the Graug normally. It was very, very silly of me, very, very silly time waste, but the rest of this Graug goes okay. I'm attempting a new manipulation here that I found it doesn't work out the way I wanted it to work out, but it normally works. So by standing here, the Graug is actually going to run to the other side to try to walk up. The Caragors normally spawn right here, however, I moved up too early and I made them miss-spawn. Now the Caragors are just going to do all sorts of silly things, and I end up having to try to recover the best I can, which is really, really messy, as you can see. But yeah, normally that works really, really well. I just went too early. Now the rest of this mission goes pretty much as standard. The Graug will follow me on the Caragor. I'll give it 2 headshots. As the Graug is going down from the second headshot, I will execute my Caragor. That is purely just because the orcs will split their attention between the Caragor and the Graug if they're both still alive. However, if you kill the Caragor, then they will all go after the Graug afterwards, which means that you can go through the mission much, much quicker.
What's step 4? There is no... It should be dead. You must have done it wrong.
I'm following your orders.
Well, that's your problem. Think for yourself.
I have an idea.
What are you doing? You can't ride a Graug. Now that's a hunter.
darkness of Mordor doesn't seem to touch that dwarf.
The 7 rings of power did not turn the dwarf kings to wraiths, as the 9 rings did to man. They are as stubborn as stone and cannot be dominated by evil. That is why Sauron has sworn to destroy them.
Okay, so here is the first of the riots we're going to start. So instead of going after the Warchief how we did in section 1, we're actually able to tell our current Warchiefs, as they're the same rank as the other Warchiefs, to start a riot. And that essentially skips all of the mission and you just have 2 Warchiefs versing off against each other. So it is a huge time save, and it's how we managed to capture the rest of the Warchiefs in this run. Now we're finally going to move on to the dreaded last Lothariel mission. So again, I'm not actually sure what other runners do in this area, however, this feels extremely fast to me, this route, so I've always stuck with it. There is no downtime here at all. You Shadow Strike, grab these first 2 targets, immediately roll here, grab this 3rd target, grab him as well, Shadow Strike to the 4th target, and then drain the other 2 by stealth. So here we blow up the fireplace just to make them die as quickly as possible, but we also want to drain as many as we can. We end up getting 3 orcs here, which is a great number of orcs. However, my drain doesn't seem to want to recognise the orc behind me for a second, but that's alright. As we're going to try to do a manipulation here. I actually failed this manipulation. I did all the steps right, but unfortunately my orcs died too early. So what we're doing here is, instead of hugging to the left, we're going to hug to the right and aim just to this rope. What's that going to do is, when the first wave of orcs spawn, we're going to continue trying to hug the right hand side. This rope is, you're not able to walk through that, so you actually have to go around it. But if we push ourselves to the right, you can see all the orcs are currently targeting me with their red reticules. However, if we keep going to the right, you can see they've all stopped targeting me now. Now the orcs are fighting in among themselves. Unfortunately for me here, all of my orcs die very quick. Normally they don't die this quick, and once they die, the other orcs then target Lothariel and I lose the ability to bring her. I try to pull her through the mission quickly to try to get the second trigger to happen, but it doesn't work. If you're able to do that correctly, you're actually able to trigger both phase 1 and phase 2 of the fight at the exact same time, which means that you'll get twice as many orcs, but you also don't have to do 2 separate fights and 2 separate Lothariel drags. And you'll also get some voice lines which go over the top of each other, which is kind of funny. So we're going to grab Lothariel, we're going to keep her moving, we'll trigger the second wave. We only needed about 4 more steps, there's the second wave. And we're going to blow up this barrel here, which kills those orcs up there. We're going to grab Lothariel and drag her for a little bit more. Once these orcs are enough underneath this fly nest, then we'll blow up the fly nest and we'll start draining orcs left, right and centre to get as many on our side as possible. The more orcs we have, the less likely we're to be struck while dragging Atariel. I'm calling Atariel now. Lothariel.
Let's make haste. My leg is broken, not my spirit. The Tower of Sauron interrogated me on your whereabouts, but I did not betray you.
Then you have proven my faith.
As you now prove mine.
I've had enough of this. I'm not searching anymore.
The horde is endless. My sword can only take so many.
So again here, we're just dragging her as far as we can before these orcs sort of get around that explosive barrel there. We're going to blow up the barrel, immediately start draining an orc. Use our combat drain to grab another orc. and we're just going to keep grabbing as many as possible. I didn't actually have combat drain, so now I'm panicking and grabbing it, as well as faster ground execute and hail of daggers, which is all very useful. And now we just start draining orcs, and we get ourselves a nice chunky army. I probably didn't need to drain this last orc, he probably would have just fought on with the other ones, but that's okay. We drain him. The very last orc in the pack hits me one more time before my guys are able to take him out, and I'm able to walk Lothario for the end. So for the next part, I'm not really going to commentate. There's just going to be a bunch of riots triggering each time. I'm going to be fighting a Warchief, triggering a riot, and then fighting a Warchief, triggering a riot. So you'll see that going on, and I'll join you back for the legendary Graug.
Thariel and her men will not survive Mordor. They must leave or perish. The Black Hand will suffer for this.
Which of you Uruks will I slice up first? I'm the strongest Warchief here. You're gonna be the deadest Warchief here. Kill you now. Not gonna let you do that. Manswine! Uruks, listen. Ranger bad. Kill Ranger. I'm going now. Next time I'll kill you all the way. Look for survivors! You can still drag out their deaths! Kill! Uruk, stop fighting Uruk. Kill Tark. Uruks on this side will kill Uruks on that side! You and your pathetic mob don't stand a chance! Man swine! Take him alive! I want to do some experiments on this one. This is Shrock! We will meet again, and I will have my revenge! Whatever happens, at least there will be lots of pain! Yes? Threaten me more! Oh, I love hearing it! Bleed them dry! Hey! Protect master! Kill man! Like a bit of Uruk fighting Uruk, do you? Come on then, join in! Catch some drops of my blood, Ranger. Carry it with you, so we can be close. Deathwalker! I've longed for this opportunity. I relish it. I lose this time, but you lose next time! I kill all other Uruks. My Uruks kill Uruks too. I can't wait anymore. Let's start playing. Sweet hot battle. None of that. Ranger! Not much to look at, are you? Wonder what's underneath. Take his head! You're wasting my time! This squad's mine! What a waste of time! The Dark Lord is watching. Do it! Let him revel in my death! Ranger! Who's this little thing here? Why is he?
Torvin!
Deadly hunter needs a deadly man. Careful, this one's ready for lunch. Time for a hunt of a lifetime, however short that is.
I assume you know the path.
The real question is, are you ready to travel it? Whatever happens during the hunt, think, what would Torvin do? Actually, that's a good life lesson for you to follow always. I pray your training sticks, or else you'll stick to the wall once the mighty Graug hurls you there.
I'm ready to fight the Graug.
And that's just what you do. Fight! No art, no finesse. The hunt isn't about swinging and slashing, it's bigger than that.
From your perspective, Dwarf, everything is bigger.
Yes, this Graug is very, very big. Oh wait, you're mocking me. Graugs are one of the oldest species of Mordor, and the deadliest by far. It's been a long time since I faced this Graug. Let us hope time wasn't as gentle to him as it was to me. My old partner and I once tracked a Graug from Mount Dolmen to Nogrod. We finally slayed it and got stuck under his leg for 2 days. Those were fun times. Last time I saw the beast was when my old partner and I tracked it into his dwelling.
How did you get out alive?
Luck! The Graug knocked me senseless. When I came to, it had ended my partner. Facing that creature alone was a death sentence. I've been hunting this Graug for almost a decade. That's a lot of years of dedication to one beast.
Dedication? Or a sign you preach better than you hunt?
Oh, that's funny, Captain. I'll be sure to laugh when the beast eats you alive. The mighty Graug will be my legacy. Dwarves will tell tales of Torvin the Hunter for generations. And I'll have them throw your name in there somewhere. Whoa!
Okay. The now has fallen. History repeats.
Okay, so this is the legendary Graug fight. Obviously, it is actually really a simple fight for speedrunners. I hate this fight so much because the intro to it takes so long. But essentially, all we have to do is let the Graug get a close attack first, run away, and then shoot him and make him run into a wall. That's phase one. We're then going to do the fancy stab down his thing, forgetting all of Torvin's training to who told us to go for the ankles and make them bleed. We don't do any of that against the legendary Graug. And now we get the ghoul phase. So this is where Hail of Daggers really comes into play. We're just going to be throwing daggers left, right and centre, trying to kill all of these ghouls. This phase will not end until all the ghouls are dead. One bad thing we have is the position of the legendary Graug. Essentially, we would rather have him in the centre because that means ghouls don't get stuck like this. Alright, so now we get to see the phase basically in full. We want to run up close to the legendary Graug, get him to do an attack, waiting for him to stop yelling here, wait for him to do the attack, and then we're going to run away. Use the speed boost, turn around, and we should now be far enough away for him to go, oh, time for me to charge. And that's basically the entire fight of the legendary Graug.
This barren land, ensuring the safety of all those we love.
I hope that Torvin finds his way home.
Okay, so at this point in the run, I knew I was on a very, very, very fast-paced run, as I've never got here before 150 before. So getting here at basically 146 was insane. I was really freaking out at this point. But essentially we're going to go into the Lord of Mordor fight. I got pretty lucky with my Nemesis. He was immune to range damage, which was a little bit annoying, but outside of that it's just a standard captain fight. There's nothing to say about it.
Beyond the dust is the man who walks with death, and his army of traitors. He has poisoned their minds and defies our Dark Lord. Join me in slaughter, brothers! Our destiny awaits! Drown the air with Uruk cries, and the earth with Uruk blood!
Couldn't bear the fire you brought, but you won't get away so easy this time.
Final reckoning. This is a trap. The silence tells us. What sorcery is at work here?
Okay, so for this part the tower is a little RNG. This spawn seems to always happen, so I always go for this one first. We simply distract him down there. He'll stare off in the distance wondering what that was. That distract also lures across this second tower, right as you can see here, so we can immediately brand this one. And then I'm looking for my third one, which thankfully spawns in a pretty decent location. It does take me a few seconds to notice it, but again, that's just the nerves running through me at this point. I knew I was on world record pace, and I was, starting to really get nervous. I am an older player in terms of the speedrunning community. I'm in my mid-30s, so my hands shake naturally anyway, so getting to this point and then knowing I have a chance of world record, my hands were shaking so much I could barely keep my mouse together.
You will never see your family again.
Your journey on to white shores glide, and there you settle in with pride. And to the ranges. Rome is in flames. We must return to Queen Marwen.
The Black Hand has been here. I can feel it.
Lothario. One day he will run up, be a brave ranger of Gondor.
Or cobblesmith, or musician.
Yes. I come for you, Lord of Gifts.
Feel the true power of the Grave Walker!
Okay, it's time for the final fight. At this point, I was shaking so much, I had to tell myself to stop looking at the timer, just stop looking at the timer. So, I'm going to tell you a bit about my strategy here. I try to focus down the third hand first, and I think he is the worst out of a lot of them. And I want to run you through why. He is a shield bearer, which means you cannot attack from the front, you cannot stun him from the front. He also has Vault Breaker, which means you cannot jump over him to get an easy stun. He is just an utter pain. Unfortunately, he decides to not come for me today, and instead we get the first hand, and I believe that's the second or the fourth hand, doesn't matter either way. I lose my Caragor very early because I let them get too close, which was really silly. Arrows are by far the best way to do this and to get rid of these guys early, but unfortunately now that they've got their lines, we may as well go for a fight. So the rest of this is just going to be me cleaning up these talons, and I will join you back when we get to Sauron.
I weep not for me. Vance wife! Where's your army of traitors now? Ha! Bring them to me! I'll execute every soddy last one of them!
Your head on a spike, and I'll be only too glad to supply.
Traitors weak, Uruk strong.
Tower's head, I hear. And for that, I'll take your skin. The Sour will take your eyes.
You lose!
This will finish as it started.
Okay, I am not joking at this point when I said I was shaking. You'll be able to see it in the next two QuickTime events. I had a feeling like I wasn't going to get world record. I was just slightly too slow during that last Talon fight, but I was still shaking because this is so far above what I've been able to run until now. I mean, this is my first sub 2 and I'm very, very close to a record. You can see there I completely missed the QuickTime event, and here it takes me a few tries to actually get there because my hands are just so shaking. And there goes world record right there, and there's the end of my run. I literally missed it by 3 seconds, but still, I am absolutely astounded by my run in Shadow of Mordor. That's it for Shadow of Mordor for me. I'm going back to Shadow of War, which is my main game, but I'm absolutely so thrilled with this run, and I'm so happy that the community helped me get to this point in less than a month and a half.